Hello everyone! Welcome back. It is the end of week 1 and I have some comics to tell you about, so I'm going to do that now. I've made some notes so I can tell you what I've read and my quick thoughts on it. I did not read as many comics as I wanted to this month, so just know that. Alright, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Alright, so the first one up, I read AXE X-Men issue number 1. This one, wow, what a time it was. So basically what ended up happening was Jean was kind of on trial with the progenitor, and guess what? She failed. Which I cannot believe happened. People like Iron Man, Wolverine, Cyclops, they all passed. I think Jean should pass too. The only thing that redeemed this moment for me was Wolverine and Jean's adorable follow-up moment. It was super cute. And Jean calling the Celestial a hypocrite and like going like kind of full Phoenix. I'm kind of beginning to think in AXE that the progenitor might be a little sexist, because I'm noticing a pattern where a lot of the guys pass and a lot of the ladies don't. But also Celestials, I mean, do they even have genders? I don't know. Can they even be sexist? I don't know. And the next one that I read is AXE Star Fox issue number 1. I do not know what it is with the best parts starting at page 19 in these like Kieran Gillen issues of AXE, but yeah. Once again, my favorite part was the both physical and verbal fight between Star Fox / Eros and Zuras. And that actually happened right around the same time as how I felt about AXE X-Men. Same page numbers almost, which is interesting. Pacing. Also, I love Star Fox's new look here, and the backstory we've gotten to explain the literal eternal nature of some of the Titans Eternals, with Sui-san and Thanos and Eros all being part of Mentor's experiments. I think that's super interesting, and it now makes other things make a lot of sense for me in my brain. And after that, I read Gambit issue number 1. Gambit issue number 1, this comic covers the untold tales of the adventures of Lil Storm and Gambit, and I gotta say, I love the dynamic between these two. I love their banter. In this story, they stole some money from a safe, Storm got in a fight with some kids, and I learned about the Bake, and finally Storm threw a pie in the face of the Shadow King, confronting him in her own way. All of this was great. Yeah. It's really interesting. I thought I was gonna really love Wolverine Patch, which we'll talk about I think in a bit more, but I'm loving Gambit more as like a throwback story. Next up, we got Gambit number 2. I really like this issue, but missing the banter between Remy and Ro a little bit in this one, since they're kind of separated. Also, I was a little confused about issue 1, as it seemed to set up a completely different story at the end, unless that story is going to be continued in the original like Uncanny X-Men comics or something like that. I did go back to issue number 1 and looked at it again, and now I'm thinking, you know, wait a minute, this is probably a setup for the final arc of this miniseries, which was only said to be 5 issues. At least I think that's what it's going to be based on the cover solicits, which I saw the covers and then I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is like the final arc probably, or somewhere close to that. Gambit issue number 3. So continuing along with Gambit here, this was a fantastic issue. There was so much action and great Remy LeBeau wit in this issue as Remy and Marissa take on Warhawk and Solars to rescue Marissa's mom, the Doctor, and Lil Ro. Can't wait to see what happens in the next issue when Bounty gets closer to confronting Gambit, which yes, that was the seeds planted at the end of issue 1 and now I see it's coming back. I took a little break from reading my physical issues to read It's Jeff issue number 19, which is actually an Infinity comic on Marvel Unlimited. If you don't have Marvel Unlimited, I would recommend it. I'm not sponsored by them, I just love this app and would recommend it to you. Also, you can read all of the Infinity comics on there as well. So yeah, it was really good. I cannot miss It's Jeff, so I figured I gotta include this. I gotta read it, may as well talk about it. This issue was super cute and it involved Jeff messing with some science to try and become human so he could go into the mysterious restrooms, only for him to instead drink the wrong science potion and then become really tiny and then get chased by an ant. I smell an Ant-Man or a Wasp cameo in issue number 20, part 2 to this story. I'm sure one of them will show up. Whenever someone becomes tiny, I'm like, nah, where's Ant-Man? Especially when there's ants in a lab, you know, just saying. Although I guess ants are kind of everywhere, so could just be a random ant. Gambit issue number 4, continuing along here, I went back to Gambit. So in Gambit issue number 4, everyone goes to attend Lila's concert and visit with her, with Lila teleporting Marissa off-world to get a new suit, but Bounty hot on the trail and not alone when it comes to those trying to cash in on Lila's bounty. Yikes. And I kind of figured it was going to go the way that it went, with Marissa basically, you know, getting sort of stabbed through and it going pretty terribly. Once Lila basically warned her about the weaknesses of the suit that she just got, but you know, I was still kind of thinking, hey, you know, other people might be around to help her at least when she's fatally wounded. So here's hoping that that will happen and someone will find her and be able to help her, because at the end of this issue, whew, she's in a bad way, indeed. Also, I love that Gambit can handle Bounty in the end, but of course, this leaves Marissa vulnerable to the other goons here to cash in on Lila, which we kind of figured something like that was going to happen once they showed up. Lil Ro and Marissa's mom continue their training during their nap on the way to the concert in their shared dream, because they're obviously being trained by Ro's ancestor. It's a super cool continuation of their training, and I can't wait to see how that'll play into this next fight. I love that throughout this series we're also learning more about the origins of Gambit's iconic costume, like how the bright colors are meant to attract targets, acting as a distraction from the parts that are left uncovered, like his face. This also helps to explain how durable Gambit sometimes is in battle, which doesn't completely make sense depending on what kind of fight he's in, despite that not being a main mutant power of his as well. And we also now know the suit comes from somewhere in outer space, and that Lila knows where this is and possibly was there when Gambit first got his suit, which is also some interesting history between the two of them. Moving right along, we've got AXE Iron Fist issue number 1. Which, surprisingly, I really loved this comic. I kind of went into this comic with low expectations and I loved it. I wasn't sure what I was going to think of it, and initially it felt like it was kind of too closely following like some of the plot points and moments from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the MCU movie, like with Lin's evil brother attempting to like conquer Kunlun and then awaken Chi-Yu, the Dark Destroyer, to take his power. Kind of some similarities there. And with the scene with Lin on the plane interacting with the passengers, kind of remind me a little bit of the plane scene in Shang-Chi. Different, but you know, it just reminded me a little bit of that scene with Shang-Chi and Katie on the plane returning to his home of China. But then it actually turned into a really great intro to Lin Li's Iron Fist, or Lin Li's Iron Fist. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Let me know in the comments if you think it's Lai. I've been saying Lin Li, so I hope that's correct. And I do think that this issue is a really cool character study on both Loki and Lin, which is super cool. I love that Lin is actually like a unique Iron Fist as well, in the sense that he didn't physically fight Xiao Lao, and the idea that Xiao Lao willingly gave up power, and that before the dragon was actually kind of like being robbed of the power, since people were fighting Xiao Lao, but they weren't giving up the power willfully, which is interesting. I never thought of it that way, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, this Iron Fist is so cool. I love Lin's Iron Fist. I also literally laughed out loud at some of the banter between Iron Fist and Loki in this issue. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But also, how did Jean not pass and Loki passed the test for the progenitor? Loki got a thumbs up, guys. That is whack. That does not make sense to me. Oh well. I mean, Loki's great. Loki maybe deserves a thumbs up, but so does Jean, I think. Alright friends, we're moving right along to X-Men Red issue number 7. This issue was so good. Like seriously, this issue is amazing. If you haven't read it, stop what you're doing, pause this video, go read it, come back. The focus was basically on the reaction of Iska turning on the Great Ring during Uranos's invasion, which, yeah, this is a very Iska-centered issue as well, which I love. I love Iska, so very interesting. Also, the Fisher King challenging Iska to a battle of understanding loss. Woo! That was a crazy moment. I was like, what's gonna happen? And very interested to read more about what happens with the reveal that Abigail Brand is, you know, an Orcus double agent in it. And I thought it was going to be in Exterminators, but apparently it is going to be continued in X-Men Red. So yeah, click clack, I guess we'll see. We're gonna see what happens with that. Should be really interesting. Making me want to read more X-Men Red. Gosh darn it. Barely have time to read what I have. And friends, I also continued along with AXE Eternals issue number 1. So what can I say about this one? Ajax is judged, but of course this is Ajax, so it's not that simple. It's pretty complicated. The art by Pascal Ferry, especially in the interiors and exteriors here, and the colors by Matt Hollingsworth, they are stunning in this issue. Like, this is visually just a beautiful issue. I'm glad it went the way it did, because I was ready to be irked by the end of this issue. Kieran Gillen also really nails Ajax, I gotta say, in this issue, which I loved. I'm interested to see when she's given the true moment of freedom and to see what choice she makes when that happens. I hope all the Eternals get the freedom to choose at the end. I think that would be great. They're always, you know, tied to the principles, so it'd be nice to see them get some freedom. Continuing to Immortal X-Men issue number 7. I'm reading all the AXE stuff, guys. Here we go. What a fantastic Kurt issue. I now see why so many folks have been extra sad that I left him off my top 10 nerd most powerful teleporter list. But I stand by what I said. He's not the most powerful teleporter, I'm sorry. He might be the most powerful intellect or philosopher though, based on this issue. I mean, I love this issue, and I love Kurt, so mad respect still. The revelation that mutants can bring back humans if they choose, by the way, is going to be huge if and when it gets out. I hope it gets out. That would be very interesting. Also, how will we bring Krakoa back? It seems like the island literally was destroyed. So do we have to regrow that in an egg? Will we get into that? I don't know, but I have questions. I love that this issue dives into how everything that has happened recently was basically all part of Kurt's big plan. And the Kurt was the one behind all of this, which is super cool. It's a really big brain Kurt move, and I love it. Also, X-Men and Orcus working together in this issue? That's huge. What will that change? I have questions. And friends, that's basically all I read for this week. It was not as much as I wanted to read. I need to be reading like a lot more in the week, so hopefully week 2 will go better. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Thanks for joining me, Fang Gang, and I'll see you next week. And let me know in the comments how your reading is going if you're reading along with me. Alright, see you then. Bye!